Just a quick note before we start. I really want to improve my audience retention. If you think, hey, this is pretty good, give it a like and subscribe. If you're more like, not quite, drop me a comment and let me know what didn't work. All right, let's get into it. She cries at midnight. I moved into the apartment on a Thursday. It was the kind of place you didn't find unless you were either desperate, broke, or just really unlucky. For me, it was a little of all three. The building stood at the edge of a tired block in New Jersey, nestled between a boarded-up laundromat and a 24-hour deli that smelled like old grease. The apartment itself, Unit 203, had a leaky faucet, cracked tiles in the bathroom, and a living room window that wouldn't quite shut all the way. But the rent was cheap, and the landlord didn't ask too many questions. I needed that. The first night I heard it, I was lying on the floor. I didn't have a bed yet, half asleep on a borrowed sleeping bag, when I heard the sound through the wall. It was faint, but unmistakable. Someone was crying. Not the kind of sobbing you hear in movies. This was the quiet, steady kind. The kind people make when they think no one can hear them. At first, I thought maybe it was just the plumbing or the building settling. Old buildings make noises after all. But then it happened the next night. And the one after that. Always around midnight. The crying came from the unit next door. 204. I didn't think much of it at first. Everyone has their demons. Maybe she'd had a breakup. Maybe she'd lost someone. I didn't know, and it wasn't my business, but it kept happening. Same time. Same intensity. Every night. I started noticing other things. The sound of footsteps pacing. A door creaking open, then slamming shut. A soft thud, like something being dropped, but I never saw anyone enter or leave 204. I tried asking around. The guy downstairs said he thought a woman lived there, but he'd never seen her. The older woman across the hall just shook her head and muttered, "That place should still be empty." I checked with the building manager, a guy named Carl who lived on the top floor and smelled like garlic and cigarettes. He squinted at me when I asked about 204. "That unit's been vacant for months," he said. "No one's living there." I didn't argue, just nodded and walked away. That night, the crying came back. This time, I sat right by the wall, pressing my ear against the cool plaster. The sobbing sounded closer, more real. I could almost make out words, something like, "I'm sorry," or maybe I didn't know. I don't know why, but I left a small note by the door the next morning. It just said, "Are you okay? If you need anything, I'm in 203. The note was gone when I came back from work. The crying continued. Over the next few nights, I left more things. A chocolate bar. A cheap flower in a plastic cup. Another note. No reply. But every morning, the item would be gone, and the crying would return. Then, one night, I thought I saw something. I was locking my door when I glanced toward 204. The peephole in the door, just a tiny dark circle, seemed different. Like it was darker than usual. I leaned a little closer, squinting. For just a second, I swear, I saw an eye. It blinked. I jumped back so hard I nearly tripped over my own feet. I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning I found my most recent note torn in half and left on my doormat. No message. Just torn. That should have been enough for me to stop, but I didn't. I knocked on the door that evening. No answer. I waited. Nothing. But I could feel something. Like the air was heavier around that doorway. I pressed my ear to the door again. Silence. Then, one soft knock. From the other side. I backed away and didn't come out of my apartment until the sun was up. The next day, I tried to forget about it. I didn't leave anything, didn't write a note. But when I came home that evening, there was something on my doormat, a small mirror. It was old, with a cracked handle. Written on the back, in faded red ink, were the words, "Look only once." I didn't know what that meant. I almost threw it away, but instead, I put it in a drawer. That night, I dreamed of a woman with wet hair covering her face, standing in my doorway. She didn't move, didn't speak, just cried. I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. The mirror was on my pillow. I don't know what's in 204. I don't think I want to know. But every night, right at midnight, she cries. And now, sometimes, I cry with her. The voice behind the wall. At first, I thought it was just a plumbing issue. You live in a cheap apartment long enough, and you learn to blame everything on the pipes. Knocks in the walls? Pipes. Sighing noises at night? Pipes. Whispers that sound eerily like someone saying, "I'm sorry"? Probably pipes. That's what I told myself anyway. I moved into Unit 205 2 months ago. It's right next to 204, the unit that, according to my lease and the building manager Carl, has been empty for over a year. Carl was very clear about that when I signed the papers. 204 has been sealed up since the last tenant left. You won't have any neighbors on that side. Should be nice and quiet. He lied. It started with small things. A light flicker when I walked past the wall. A soft click, like a switch being flipped on the other side. And then came the whispering. Every night, somewhere between midnight and 1 a.m., I would hear it. Faint, just enough to make you question it. A woman's voice, barely above a breath. "I'm sorry." Over and over. I pressed my ear to the wall once. It got louder. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. Please." I pulled away, heart racing. It sounded like someone was standing just inches away. The next day, I told Carl. He just blinked at me. "No one's in 204, he said. "Maybe you're picking up something from the vents. Some units share ductwork." But that didn't make sense. The voice came from the wall, not the vent, and it felt directed at me. I tried to ignore it. I really did. I started sleeping with earbuds in, played white noise, drank wine, before bed. Nothing helped. Then things started showing up in my apartment. Small things at first. A coffee mug I didn't remember buying. A scarf hanging by the door that wasn't mine. A key, similar to mine but slightly worn, sitting on the kitchen counter. I live alone. I thought maybe I was losing it. Stress, maybe. Work had been rough, and I was dealing with some personal stuff, but the feeling didn't go away. The feeling that someone else was in my space, not watching me, living with me. One night, I came home and found the bathroom mirror fogged up, like someone had just stepped out of a hot shower. Except I hadn't used it that morning. I wiped it with a towel and saw a message scrawled in the condensation. "Please remember." I backed out of the room and locked myself in my bedroom for the rest of the night. The final straw was the note. It came through the vent. Just a scrap of paper curled at the edges like it had been there a long time. I had turned the heat up because it was freezing, and the note fluttered out onto the floor. I unfolded it slowly, hands shaking. "Please help me. I'm trapped." That was all it said. The handwriting was mine. I stared at it for a long time, compared it to my grocery list on the fridge, to the note I'd left myself on the counter. The loops, the slant, the little way I crossed my T's, it was all exactly the same. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to move out, but I couldn't afford it, and part of me needed to know what was going on. So I did something stupid. I taped a note to the wall. It just said, "Who are you?" The next night, there was no whispering, no lights flickering, no new items, nothing. Just silence. I should have been relieved, but it felt worse, like I'd broken some invisible connection. 3 days later, I woke up to find my bedroom rearranged. The bed was pushed to the other wall. My dresser had been moved, drawers slightly open, and on the nightstand was a small photo frame I'd never seen before. It held a picture of me, sleeping. I don't know who took it. I've checked every inch of this apartment for cameras. Called Carl again. He came down, looked around, and told me I was probably sleepwalking. I'm not crazy, I told him. I didn't say you were, he replied. But I could see it in his eyes. That night, I tried something else. I slid my own note through the vent. Tell me what you want. The next morning it was back. My note. Same paper. Same handwriting. But the words were different. To remember. That's all it said. I don't know what it means. But now, when I look in the mirror, I feel like I'm seeing someone else. My reflection doesn't blink when I do. Sometimes it smiles when I'm not. And now the voice says something new. Not just, I'm sorry. It says, you were me. I don't sleep anymore. The Master Key. Mr. McKenna had been the superintendent of the Oakbridge Apartments for nearly 30 years, long enough to know which units had creaky floorboards, which ones never fully heated in the winter, and which tenants paid their rent on time. He also knew which doors were best left shut. Unit 204 had always been one of those doors. It wasn't officially off limits, of course, not on paper. But McKenna had a feeling about certain places, and 204 gave him the same feeling he'd gotten when he found a raccoon's nest in the boiler room. Nervous, unclean, wrong. He hadn't thought about that unit in a while, not until recently. It started with a new tenant in 203. Young guy, quiet. Name was Tom something. Paid on time, didn't cause trouble. But McKenna noticed a habit. Every night, Tom would stand in front of 204. Just stand there. Sometimes for a minute, sometimes longer. And he wasn't just loitering, he was talking. Not loudly, not enough to make out the words. But McKenna had spent most of his life listening through walls, and he knew what murmuring sounded like. He mentioned it casually when he saw Tom fixing his mailbox. You got friends in 204 or something? Tom blinked. 204? Yeah, you keep hanging around that door. Tom looked confused, almost scared. There's no one in 204. McKenna nodded, didn't push. That night, he watched from the stairwell as Tom stood in front of the unit again. No knocking, just standing. And when Tom turned to go, McKenna saw him glance at the peephole and flinch, like it had looked back at him. The next morning, McKenna went into the basement where the old tenant files were kept. Most of it was paper. Yellowing leases, scribbled maintenance logs, faded Polaroids. He found the one for Unit 204 and pulled it out. 7 years ago, a woman named Hannah Crowley had lived there. The file was thin. A few maintenance tickets, leaky faucet, broken light switch, and then a stapled incident report. That page had a red stamp on it. Resolved, do not disclose. He remembered now. She had jumped from the window. They said it was an accident, but he'd seen the way she paced the halls before. The vacant stare, the whispering, and the stains they could never quite scrub from the carpet. The owners didn't want bad press. They paid for silence. Repainted. Replaced the carpet. Told McKenna to seal the file and keep quiet. So he had. Until now. That night, he sat in his tiny office, staring at the key rack. He still had the master. His hand hovered over it. He told himself he just wanted to check. Make sure the unit was secure. Maybe there was a broken vent causing noises. Nothing more. The hallway was quiet as he walked up. Late. Past midnight. The kind of time when the building itself seemed to breathe. He stood in front of 204. The door looked ordinary. Beige paint. Brass numbers. Slight scuff marks near the bottom. Nothing unusual. He slid the key in. It turned easily. The door creaked as it opened a few inches. The apartment was dark. Still. Then, "Don't!" A voice. Right behind him. He spun, heart thudding. The hallway was empty. He turned back. The door was wide open now. He didn't remember pushing it. He stepped inside. The air was thick. Not musty, exactly. Heavy. Like the room had been holding its breath. The layout was the same as every other unit, but it felt wrong. The angles looked off. The corners too dark. He reached for the light switch. It didn't work. He moved forward slowly, his footsteps muffled. The living room was bare, except for a small table with a single item on it, a broken mirror. Cracks spiderwebbed across the surface, distorting his reflection. He walked toward the bedroom. The door was ajar. He pushed it open with one finger. Inside, the bed was made. The sheets were old, but neatly tucked. On the pillow was a note. His name was written on the front. He didn't remember writing it. His hands trembled as he unfolded the paper. "You said you'd never open the door." He dropped the note and backed out of the room. The door slammed shut behind him. He ran. Down the hallway, down the stairs, not stopping until he was back in his office. Heart pounding, chest heaving. The next day, he sealed the key in an envelope and taped it inside the back of the file folder. Then he returned the folder to the cabinet, locked the drawer, and left the basement. He didn't tell anyone what he saw, but that night, Tom stood in front of 204 again. And this time, McKenna noticed something new. The door was open a crack, and someone else was watching from the inside. The letter beneath the floor. Margaret didn't believe in ghosts. She believed in mildew, in black mold, in cheap landlords who cut corners and lied through their teeth. But she didn't believe in ghosts. At least, not until she started cleaning Unit 204. She'd been working part-time at Oakbridge Apartments for 6 months. Nothing fancy, just a few hours in the mornings to help make ends meet. Her job was to vacuum hallways, scrub communal laundry machines, and occasionally clean out old units when tenants moved or died, or simply vanished. Unit 204 had been locked since she started. No one had mentioned it. It didn't even show up on the job list. But then Carl, the building manager, left a note taped to her cleaning cart one morning. "Open 204. Check water damage. Report if floor is soft." She hated when they made her do the inspections. If something caved in, they'd just blame her for stepping wrong. Still, she took the master key, trudged up to the second floor, and unlocked 204. It smelled wet. Not just damp. Wet. The kind of soaked-in moisture you couldn't bleach out. The air was thick and stale, like the room hadn't been touched in years. She held her breath and stepped inside. The floor sagged near the window. The wood looked warped, discolored in a wide patch. She walked carefully, testing each plank. Then she saw something. Just near the edge of the dark spot, a corner of paper was sticking up between 2 floorboards. She crouched, pried the boards apart gently, and pulled it free. It was a small crumpled envelope, damp, smudged, and sealed with something that looked like wax or blood. Her stomach turned. No address, no stamp. Just 2 words scrawled across the front. Don't forget. She hesitated. Then curiosity won. She opened it. Inside was a single scrap of paper, the ink almost too faded to read. Please don't forget me. You promised. As soon as she read it, a sharp pain knifed through her head. She gasped and dropped the letter. For a moment, the room spun. And then she saw him. Not in the room. In her mind. A flash of a man's face. Dark eyes. A smile she should have known. The smell of cinnamon and smoke. And her voice. Laughing, arguing, whispering secrets into his shoulder. She stumbled back, heart racing. She didn't recognize the man, but the emotion in the memory was unmistakable. Intimate. Familiar. She'd never been in this apartment before. She was sure of it. And yet, standing here, everything felt right. Back in her own place that night, she searched through old photos. School, work, family reunions, nothing. No sign of him. But that didn't erase the feeling. The certainty that she'd forgotten something. Someone. She started dreaming about him. In the dreams, they lived together in a room with a window that never shut properly. He would kiss her shoulder as he passed, hand her coffee in a chipped mug, whisper, "Don't forget me." She woke in tears. She asked Carl about the previous tenants. "Don't have records that far back," he said, avoiding her eyes. "Place has had a lot of turnover." "Why do you ask?" She didn't answer. But that night, she snuck back into 204. She didn't know what she expected. The letter was gone. But when she stepped inside, the floor no longer felt soft. The air didn't smell quite as wet. It smelled like something else now. Something older. She walked to the bedroom. The walls were bare, but in the corner, tucked behind the door, she found a second envelope. This one wasn't damp. She opened it without hesitation. Inside was a photo. Her, standing beside the man from her dreams, smiling, holding keys. The back read, "First day. Unit 204. Her knees gave out. She sat there on the floor for a long time, staring at the picture, trying to stitch the pieces back together. But the harder she tried to remember, the more everything slipped away. She left the apartment just before dawn, locked the door behind her, but the next morning, the photo was on her nightstand. She never told anyone. A week later, she quit. Said she was moving to Florida. Left no forwarding address. Carl tried to check 204 after she left, but when he put in the key, the lock wouldn't turn. He called a locksmith. The guy tried every trick in the book. No luck. From inside the unit, someone had bolted it shut, and no one was supposed to be in there. Delivery to the dead. Marcus didn't believe in ghosts. Still doesn't really. But Unit 204 made him question things. He'd been doing package delivery in the area for almost a year, navigating bad weather, worse traffic, and buildings that smelled like old soup. Oak Ridge Apartments was one of his regular stops. Mostly quiet. Weird layout, but manageable. Except for 204, it started with a single delivery. Small box, no return address. Label just read, Unit 204. Marcus walked up to the 3rd floor and knocked. No answer. He left it at the door, scanned it, and moved on. The next day, he noticed the same thing. Another package for 204. Same handwriting. Same lack of sender info. He asked the front desk manager, an old guy with a limp named Carl, if the tenant ever picked up their stuff. Carl frowned. 204's been vacant. Hasn't had a tenant since 2018. Marcus laughed. Then someone's ordering a lot of Amazon to a ghost. Carl didn't laugh. He just said, just leave the package. So Marcus did. Again and again. Every time he delivered, the previous package was gone. The hallway camera didn't show anyone taking it. In fact, some nights, the footage skipped. Just a little gap. 2, maybe 3 minutes missing. He didn't think too hard about it until he saw her. It was late. Rainy. He was coming down the stairs after a delivery when he saw a woman rounding the second floor landing. Thin, pale, wearing a green sweater. Her hair was damp. She looked up at him, and her eyes locked onto his. She didn't say a word. By the time he blinked, she was gone. He told himself maybe she was a tenant, but when he checked the directory later, there was no one listed who fit her description. Something about her face felt familiar, so he did a little digging. Old incident reports, building archives, an internet search. That's how he found her. Emily Reyes, tenant of Unit 204, died in 2018. Accidental overdose, according to the report. No known family. Body found 3 days after the neighbors complained about the smell. There was a photo attached. It was her, the woman on the stairs. He tried to shake it off. Coincidence, maybe. His mind playing tricks. Old buildings do that. But the next time he delivered to 204, things got stranger. The scanner refused to beep. Just glitched. The timestamp wouldn't lock in. He finally forced it through and left the box. When he returned to the depot that night, the delivery log already showed the package as delivered, with his signature. Marcus hadn't signed anything. The handwriting wasn't his, but it looked close, like someone was mimicking it. Then came the camera footage. Out of curiosity or paranoia, he asked the building's night shift guy if he could peek at the third-floor hallway footage from earlier that day. It showed Marcus, all right, only it wasn't from the time he was there. The footage had a timestamp from 2:14 p.m. He'd made the delivery at 6:47 p.m. In the footage, he stood outside Unit 204, holding a box. But he didn't move. He just stared at the door for almost 2 full minutes. Then the door opened a crack, and the video glitched. When it resumed, he was gone. Marcus went home early that night. He didn't sleep. In the morning, there was a box on his doorstep. No label, no return address, just his name. Inside was a green sweater. He hasn't delivered to Oak Ridge since. But sometimes he dreams he's standing in that hallway again, always holding something he can't quite let go of. And the door to 204 is always just starting to open. The man at 3 a.m., Jared had installed a lot of security cameras in his time, but Oak Ridge Apartments made him uneasy the moment he stepped inside. He told himself it was just the smell. Old wood, mildew, cheap disinfectant, the kind of place that never aired out properly. Still, something about the building tugged at him, like deja vu with teeth. The job was simple. Upgrade the aging analog cameras to a digital system, install some motion-sensing units in the stairwells, and connect it all to a remote access hub in the main office. Easy pay. It was Carl, the building manager, who made the first offhand comment. "Make sure the third floor is covered," he said, handing Jared a scratched-up keycard. "We get weirdness up there." Jared raised an eyebrow. "Weird how?" Carl shrugged. "Just weird. You'll see." He did. The cameras were all up by the end of the week. Jared ran a few test recordings, checked feeds from his laptop, adjusted angles. Everything looked fine, until he reviewed the motion logs. Every night, exactly 3 a.m., a motion alert triggered on the west stairwell. At first, Jared figured it was a glitch, but when he pulled the footage, he saw the man. Tall, hooded, silent, moving slowly, one step at a time, always the same, every night, same time. The man would enter the building through the side entrance, walk down the first floor hall, then disappear when he reached the stairs. But each night, he got a little closer. Jared checked the timestamps. The figure was always there for 2 minutes and 38 seconds. Never more, never less. Like clockwork. After a week, the man was halfway up the stairs. Jared paused the video, zoomed in. The face was obscured, but the posture, the shoulders, they looked familiar. He ran the footage through a comparison tool. Nothing conclusive, but the system flagged a 91% match with a file photo in the system. Marcus, the delivery guy. Jared knew Marcus. Not well, but enough to recognize the way he walked. Still, there was something off. He decided to dig deeper. He pulled older footage from the archived analog tapes Carl had kept in a drawer. Dusty boxes of unlabeled VHS and DVDRs. He spent hours combing through them. That's when he found the tape. Date: March 17th, 2019. Third floor hallway. Unit 204. The camera angle was grainy, but clear enough. A man exits the apartment at 3 a.m. He pauses in the hallway, looks both ways, then stares directly at the camera. It was Jared. He froze. He didn't remember ever living in Oakbridge. He'd been in the area around that time, sure. Working contract jobs, drifting a bit. But he had no memory of this building. No lease. No documents. He checked public housing records. Found a listing for a J. Brenner registered at Unit 204, Oakbridge Apartments. March to May, 2019. His full name, his birth date, his signature on the lease. He didn't know what to believe. He called his sister that night. "Hey," he said, trying to sound casual. "Did I ever live at a place called Oakbridge?" A pause. "Didn't you fall or something there? Hit your head? You told me not to bring it up again." "I what?" "I don't know, Jared. You were weird after that. Real quiet. Said you didn't remember much. That's all I know." The next night, he stayed late in the building's maintenance office. He rewound the 3 a.m. footage again. The man had reached the top of the stairs now. He turned toward the hallway, toward 204. He paused outside the door, looked at the camera, and smiled. Jared slammed the laptop shut. When he opened it again, the live feed was still rolling. The hallway was empty. He exhaled. Then his phone buzzed. One new text message. "You're home now." He stared at the screen. When he looked back at the feed, the door to Unit 204 was ajar. He doesn't remember walking there, but he's in the footage now, standing in front of the door, at 3 a.m. every night. The elevator that wouldn't stop. Lena hadn't heard from her sister in over a week. Emily wasn't the clingy type, but she always replied. Always sent dumb memes or a quick "I'm alive" text every couple of days. But now, nothing. No calls, no replies, no posts. So Lena drove 3 hours back to Oakbridge Apartments, where Emily had been living for the past year. The building was just as she remembered it. Dingy, crooked, and too quiet. She buzzed the front door. No answer. Carl, the manager, eventually opened it. He looked surprised. "Didn't know she had family," he said. "She's not answering. I just want to check on her." Carl scratched his neck. "Haven't seen her. Might not be home. You can go up." The lobby was colder than it should have been. The lights flickered just enough to feel deliberate. Lena pressed the button for the elevator and waited. When the doors opened, the car was empty. She stepped in, turned to the panel and pressed 3. Nothing happened. The elevator didn't move. The lights above the buttons didn't blink. Then, with a mechanical groan, the doors slid shut, and the elevator began to ascend. She didn't touch anything. The floor display blinked from 1 to 2. The elevator stopped. The doors opened. Standing in the hallway was a man in a maintenance uniform. He looked at her, straight-faced, like he'd been waiting. He didn't speak, didn't move. The doors closed. Floor 3. The doors opened again. This time, a woman in a green sweater stood there. Wet hair, bare feet. She tilted her head, watching Lena with a strange smile. The doors closed. Lena's heart pounded. She reached for the buttons again. None lit up. None responded. The elevator moved. Floor 4. A child this time, holding a stuffed bear, eyes hollow. He waved slowly. The doors shut. Lena backed into the corner of the car, gripping the handrail. The air felt thicker now, warmer. She could feel sweat forming under her collar. Floor 5. No one. But a voice whispered her name. Lena. She hit every button on the panel. Nothing worked. She slammed her palm against the emergency stop. Dead. The elevator moved again. There was no 6th floor, but the display read 6. The car slowed, stopped. The doors opened. It wasn't a hallway. It was an apartment. Unit 204. The layout was unmistakable. Lena had seen it once before when she helped Emily move in. But the lighting was dimmer, distorted, like a filter over reality. She stepped out, unable to stop herself. The elevator vanished behind her. Inside, everything was too clean. No dust, no clutter. Just a single key on the kitchen counter. She picked it up. It was old. Familiar. She reached into her coat pocket and froze. There was already a key there. Same weight, same ridges, same cold metal. She pulled it out. They matched exactly. She'd had the key before she arrived. The hallway lights flickered. From the bedroom she heard movement. Software careful. She walked down the hall, calling Emily's name. No answer. The door creaked open. The bed was made, and sitting in the chair by the window was Emily. Except it wasn't. The shape was right. The hair. The clothes. But when it turned to look at her, the face was Lena's. It smiled, and the elevator behind her dinged open once more. Empty. Ready to go back down. She didn't remember pressing the button, but she stepped inside, and the doors closed, descending, alone, with the wrong key still in her pocket. The Lost and Found. Glenn had worked the overnight shift at the transit station for 6 years. It wasn't a glamorous job, but it suited him. Quiet mostly. A few late trains, the occasional stranded traveler. Lost items, found items. Routine. But the phone was different. He found it sitting upright on the bench, just outside the northbound platform. No case. No scratches. Just a plain black phone. Screen dark, as if it had just been set down moments before. He picked it up, checked for ID. Nothing. No wallpaper, no lock screen message. When he pressed the power button, it came on instantly. Only one app icon showed on the screen. A basic media player and one audio file. Out of habit, he hit play. A flat, synthetic voice began to repeat, "Next stop, 204. Next stop, 204. Get off, or stay forever." It looped. Next stop, 204. Next stop, 204. Get off, or stay forever. Glenn frowned. Weird prank, maybe? He glanced around. No one nearby. He brought it to the Lost and found office and logged it like usual. That night, he mentioned it to Cynthia, the only other staffer on duty. She laughed. Creepy. Maybe it's some viral marketing thing. The next day, Cynthia didn't show up. No call, no text. Just gone. Her phone rang endlessly. No voicemail. No word from her family. Glenn didn't make the connection. Not yet. 2 nights later, Tom from maintenance went missing. The station cameras caught him walking into the Lost and found room. Then, nothing. He never came out. Glenn checked the room himself. Empty. The phone was still there. Still powered on. Still looping. Next stop, 204. Get off, or stay forever. He tried deleting the file. Wouldn't work. He tried restarting the phone. The file remained. He tried turning off the power. The phone stayed on. Now he was unsettled. He locked the phone in a drawer and left it. But the next night, the phone was back on the bench. Upright. Waiting. This time there were 2 files. The original, and a new one titled Glenn. He stared at the screen for a long time before pressing play. It was the same voice, but this time it said, next stop, 204. For Glenn. Arrival, 3 a.m. tomorrow. He dropped the phone. It landed screen up, still glowing. He called the transit police. They took it away. Said it was probably just a prank. But that night, his apartment clock blinked 3 a.m. and his phone buzzed. One new message, you missed your stop. And when he checked his hallway camera, he'd installed one after a break-in months ago, it showed him opening his own front door at 2:59 a.m. He was asleep in bed. Or so he thought. Now the station has a new overnight guy. The phone still shows up. Sometimes in the lockers, sometimes on the benches, still powered on, still waiting for someone to listen. The Wrong Diary. Kelly loved thrift stores. Old books, vintage sweaters, forgotten photo frames. It all felt like treasure hunting. She found the paperback on a rainy Wednesday, wedged between 2 dog-eared cookbooks. A cheap horror novel with a ripped cover and yellowed pages. She wasn't expecting anything special, just something to read over coffee. At home, curled up on the couch, she flipped through the pages. About halfway through, something slipped out. A notebook, thin and soft, hand-stitched down the middle. It wasn't part of the book. Someone had hidden it inside. The cover was blank. The first few pages were scrawled in tight cursive. A journal. She started reading. At first, the entries were vague, bits of reflection, mundane observations. Then they got more specific. Woke up at 6:32 again. Checked the kettle even though I didn't turn it on. Dreamt of the hallway again. Stopped for coffee. Barista with the chipped tooth wasn't there. The new one doesn't smile. The man on the 3rd floor stared too long. Don't take the elevator tomorrow. Kelly frowned. That was her schedule. Her habits. Her apartment had a hallway that showed up in her dreams sometimes. The barista with the chipped tooth worked at the cafe near her building. And she always took the elevator. She flipped to the last written page. It was dated next week. When you unlock the door to 204, don't forget to look behind you. She snapped the journal shut. 204. She lived in 307. Still, the entry rattled her. She tossed the journal aside and tried to distract herself with TV. It didn't help. The words looped in her head. Unlock the door to 204. Look behind you. That night, just past midnight, She heard a soft clink at her apartment door. She waited, listened. Nothing. She opened the door cautiously. The hallway was empty, but on the floor was a key. Old, brass, slightly tarnished, attached to a plastic tag. 204. She stared at it for a long time before picking it up. The next day, she returned to the thrift store. The cashier didn't remember the book, said it must have come in from a bulk donation. Kelly asked if they kept records, names, phone numbers. They didn't. That night, she read the journal again, this time from the beginning. The handwriting started to look familiar. A certain way the G's looped. The tiny slashes through the sevens. It looked like hers. The next entry wasn't there before. You're almost ready. Just one more dream. She didn't sleep. But somehow, she woke up with the key in her hand. No memory of how it got there. And now she sees it on her building's directory, right between units 203 and 205. Irnuchananga. She swears it wasn't there yesterday. She's standing outside it now. The key fits. She unlocks the door, and just before she steps inside, some final instinct makes her turn around. No one's there, but the journal is back in her hand, open to a fresh page. Good job. Now close the door, and don't come back out. The one who sees. You've read the stories. Tom, Emily, McKenna, Margaret, Marcus, Jared, Lena, Glenn, Kelly, all of them, threads in a single pattern. And me? I'm the one who weaves them. You think these are just stories. You're not alone. Most do. They read them late at night, with the lights dimmed, headphones in, chasing a little thrill before bed. But you kept going. And now you're here. Let's begin with the truth. Every door in this building has a lock, but not all of them need a key. Some open with memory. Some open when you forget. Unit 204 is both. You've never lived here, not really. But somehow you recognize the layout, the smell of the carpet, the way the light never quite reaches the back corner of the living room. You've seen it, haven't you? In a dream. In the reflection of a window that shouldn't have shown it. You've stood in the elevator that doesn't stop. You've turned the key you never remember picking up. And each time, something changes. A detail out of place. A missing tooth and a familiar smile. A hallway that's 1 foot longer than it was yesterday. They never notice. The tenants, not until it's too late. Emily forgot her name before she left the stairwell. Jared found himself in footage he never shot. Kelly rewrote her life, 1 page at a time, thinking she was the one holding the pen. They all think they're real. They're not. They're echoes, soft impressions, rewritten, reshaped, folded into the fabric of this place. Into me. I don't have a name you'd understand, but you know me. You felt the cold spot in your kitchen when no window was open. You've heard the creak of a floorboard in an empty room. You've said things you didn't remember thinking first. I see through you. I remember you before you remembered yourself. I live in the pause between heartbeats, when you wake up and aren't sure who you are. And now, I'm in your hands. Yes, yours. Because as you read this, a small part of you begins to wonder if it's all just coincidence. But your eyes linger. You scroll slower now. You notice a smell. A little damp. Like something left in a basement too long. You hear the air vent behind you hum to life. Or maybe it never stopped. You check the time. It's later than it should be. And there, just out of sight, is the door you swore wasn't there yesterday. There's a key in your pocket. I didn't put it there. Not exactly. You did when you kept reading, when you ignored the signs, when you stopped questioning the odd turns of phrase, the repeating names, the fact that the building never had more than 9 tenants. Until now. Now there are 10, and you're the 10th. Go ahead. Check the tag on your key. 104. Don't worry, I've been waiting for your story to begin. If you made it to the end, you're officially a legend. Seriously, thank you so much. If you didn't fall asleep, hit that like button and subscribe. See you in the next video.